Alright, so this is where we're planning on mounting all of our solars underneath this bench. So what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to get this removed and then kind of figure out where everything's going to lay out, because we have two deep cycle batteries, we have the controller and the inverter, and I want all of them to kind of tuck as far up underneath the backside of this bench as I can, because I do plan on putting another little storage shelf all along the front so we can keep clothes and things like that down underneath, and a little pull-out drawer. So right now let's get this bench removed so that we can see what we really have to work with, how much height and how much space we have to work with. So let's get this off and we'll go from there. Alright, so now that we got the bench out of the way, now we can really kind of get an idea how we want to lay everything out inside here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew all these old mounts and stuff that they have on here for like the jacks and all the tire irons and stuff. All of that's going to be removed and moved out to the bumper, inside the hollow bumper out back. So right here inside this box is our shoreline wire that actually cools up in here. And then right over here is our electric water pump and the fill lines and everything where it ties in on the outside of the van. So the plan is right here in this area is where I really want to try to mount everything in this corner that's in between these two boxes. I'm thinking I might actually just run a sheet of plywood here. I'm going to take some measurements, but from this box to that box, and frame it along the front, put the batteries behind it, secure them to the floor, so then the solar controller and my inverter and everything will be right here on the back. The other reason for that is I would really like to put a drawer along the front of this. Once we get a new bench and everything, I'm going to make it where it actually slides out, so we have a long skinny drawer for putting clothes and stuff like that underneath the bench. So now let's get some measurements, let's get the batteries drug in here, and then we'll go through kind of how I'm planning on wiring the system out and get it started. Alright, so I think this is how I want to lay these batteries out, because then what I can do from here is then I can mount my inverter and my controller right here to the front of this on a sheet of plywood, so everything will be really close, easy to wire everything into it, just kind of keep it all nice and tight and compact and convenient. One thing that you might have to keep in mind though with your system is if you buy a pre-built system, they may want to have the batteries laid out a certain way, so the cables may not be able to actually reach this length. So you might end up having to buy new cables or make new cables, which is the case. Is I made a couple of different lengths just so I have some spares so that I can go with any kind of a layout that I want. So let me take you inside, show you the controller, show you some of the cables that came with the kit, some of the cables that I made on my own, and then we'll get this thing out here and get it all framed up. Alright, so here's everything that I purchased, and I just purchased this off of Amazon. I just got the Windy Nation 200 watt solar kit, just kind of a basic kit. So in that kit you're going to get the solar controller, you get the inverter, you get a battery tender so it kind of shows the temperature of the battery. You're going to get some random cables, you're going to get all the connectors that actually hook up to the panels, hardware for the panels, a little bit of extra wire. A couple things that I did add is I got a couple extra fuses and some more inline fuses with some cables here, so just in case I need to add anything down the road. And then 200 watt panels. So this is what I'm going to be installing inside of our van. So right now I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of measurements, and I'm going to pre-mount most of this stuff on a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood and then attach that on under the seat where you already saw the batteries in the van. So let's get something ripped down to size and start getting this wired up. Okay, so here's a basic layout. I just kind of laid out things and kind of got some pre-measurements, made all my wires, pre-cut everything. So now I'm going to go mount this out there next to the batteries. So then I can actually just test fit everything, make sure all my cables are going to line up, and then we'll go ahead and get the inverter and the solar charger all wired up out there. Okay, so I've got the mounting brackets all installed. I have it all braced down, put some extra strong ties on both of these boxes just to kind of make sure everything's going to be nice and sturdy, and I went ahead and anchored it to the floor. Now for the batteries back here, I went ahead and just put furring strips all the way around them to pull them in nice and tight. These batteries are pretty heavy, so I'm figuring keeping them close together and just pulling them up against this wall here and down on the floor. They're not going to go anywhere. If they do move, I can just throw some straps over them to kind of keep them in place. So I do have all my pile of wires here. I kind of laid everything out and test fit it. So now I'm going to get everything wired up, and let's get this thing going. Alright, so here we are wired up. Now I haven't cinched all the cables up or put any of the guides that I want, because I really want to try to kind of clean this up a little bit, but so far I got all hooked up. So we got positive to positive, negative to negative. The other thing that there was all kinds of guys going back and forth which one needs to be which. When I powered the solar controller, I pulled negative from one battery and positive from the opposing battery, so they kind of work as the sum of the both. Maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong, I really don't know. I'm not an electrician, so that's just the way I went with it. Everything seemed like it all went together pretty nice. You can see my inline fuse right here for the positive side. Now this spot right here that I did leave open, I do have a fuse box coming in, so I'm actually going to tie in some fuses so I can run lights, the vent fans, and then we're going to see how that runs on the batteries, and if that everything works good, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm also going to plumb in our electric pump right here so that our pump, our vent, and our lights always run on the solar as we're driving. So I'm going to go grab something and let's try out this inverter and see how the load works on it, and then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll get all the solar panels wired in. Okay, I just went and grabbed my heat gun out of the shop here. I got the inverter powered up. Let's turn it on. There's run. Show that we're pulling. Awesome. So it seems like everything works. So tomorrow we'll come back and we'll get the solar panels hooked up and give her a try. Alright, here so we are continuing on adding solar to our van here. I'm just trying to kind of get a layout of where I want to put these panels. I'm hopefully trying to beat this weather that's blowing in here today, so hopefully it's not too windy on the video here. The front of our camper van here has got plenty of space for one panel to mount perfectly flush. But back here, I have a little bit of an angle here. I don't know if you can kind of see it in the camera where this actually drops off. So this is kind of the sleeping quarters, and then it drops into the main cabin. So my solar panel is going to overhang by a couple of inches. So that's really going to limit me as far as how much I can actually have for a good mounting surface. So I'm going to try to come up with a different way for making a little different bracket. Maybe lifting this panel up just a little bit so I have a little bit more space to go for the underhang to make some other mounts for it. So let's go inside, get the first one mounted, and figure out what we're gonna do with the second one. Alright, so here's the no drill system that I'm going to install on the front solar panel. So it came with all these little brackets here, so it's going to have good contact on all four corners plus the center bracing. And it also came with this for the wires, so where these actually go down through where I'm going to drill the hole, I'll be able to seal this, and then this crimps down and tightens down on them to make a nice waterproof seal. Now it did come with its own adhesive. I'm guessing it's probably pretty good stuff. It seemed like it got pretty good reviews. I'd kind of take that with a grain of salt with a lot of things, because a lot of companies will send you perks if you give them 5 stars, even if they send you junk. So I'm not going to trust it. So the other thing I also bought was VHB tape. And I have used this stuff before, and this stuff is amazing. I actually installed a bumper once for a car that was out on a road trip, and the guy was just trying to get home, and the guy told me it took him like a year later, that bumper was still on. He never actually ended up finishing it. So this stuff is awesome. So what I'm going to do on the base of these is on this larger strip, I'm going to use this VHB tape, and then the sealant that they sent me, the adhesive, I'm going to run a thin one and finish off the sealant all the way around the other edge. So that way I've got multiple contact points, and then once I have this up on top, I'm also going to go get the self-leveling sealant, and I'm going to run that all the way as a bead around the outer edge. So I'm hoping between sealing it down, the tape, and that epoxy stuff that they're sending me, that this panel's not going anywhere. It is going to be on the front of my van, and it's just like a big brick pushing through the wind, so the last thing I want is that solar panel to get airborne. So let's get this thing mounted and get it up on the roof, because the second one's going to be the hard one. So let's get the easy one done and out of the way here. Alright, so here we are just kind of laying things out and test fitting things. One thing I did want to do is open up the vent so I can see how much space I have to give it between this front solar panel here. The other problem I'm running into is up here on this roof. It looks like the previous owners, it has a little flat spot here where it kind of dips down, so it's not perfectly square. So right now I'm trying to kind of figure out how I can get each of these joints to make sure I have a good contact all the way around on it, and kind of working around where that low spot is on the roof. So that's what I'm kind of dealing with right now. This one that I built the brackets for, laying out perfect, but I don't have any more of those brackets to add to this one, so I'm just gonna have to kind of make do with what I got. So what I'm thinking I might do here is, as each of these out, is mark this out and actually glue them down one at a time, and then remove them from the solar panel here, and then maybe put some sandbags or some weight on them, let it sit for 24 hours so everything adheres, and then come reinstall the panels to them. So just trying to kind of figure things out there, how I want to do this. I just really want to make sure I have really good contact patch on these, so kind of going to move forward with it. I'll go show you what we have over here. We're actually going to run the wires and how we're going to run them into the van. So let's get on the other side and show you what we got. Alright, so on the other side here, so what I've done is I've taken these wires, and I've got 2 other holes that I drilled here. So once all the wires are in there, I can run them back here, and then I can kind of zip tie them in place or use some tape here. Now the kit came with this little thing, so you can actually run the wires down in here. It has a waterproof seal on the top, and then I'll run some sealant around the side of it. And this goes right into the kitchen cabinet on the inside, so I can run all my wiring through the cabinets. So that worked out pretty well on this side. So now you can kind of see, this probably puts a little more perspective here. You can see there's a little gap on that front leg where it kind of lifts up. So it's not sitting down perfectly flat because of that dip in the roof. So it's going to be one panel at a time, I think, here. So I know this one's good, so I'm probably going to get this one done, mounted, and just let it start drying while I'm kind of messing with that one. So let's continue on with that. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow when these things will all be dry and everything will be adhered up really nice, but we'll just have to go and see. Alright, here we are up on the roof of the van, continuing on with the DIY solar install, and last night I got the panels all set up. So what we have here is we have 200-watt solar panels. Now we went ahead and did with the no drill install, so I don't know if it'll quite show up, but there's actually tape, and I used 3M underneath each one of these panels when I installed them. You can see right over here is where we actually have the wires going in, and I went ahead and I did have to drill one hole through that where it goes down into the cabinets. I just drilled a hole big enough that both wires would feed. Now I did wrap the wires with some protective exterior kind of protective plastic and just wrap them together. So both of these panels are lined up. So let's head down inside the van and kind of show you everything that we've got inside. Alright, so this is the color of the new couch. You can see from the blue, got nice contrasting colors right now. Ignore that, we're just kind of dealing with the solar system right now. This is all going to get gutted and changed eventually. So as we start up here with the solar, this is my positive lines coming off of both panels up above. So if I ever have to work on the system and I want to de-energize it, all I have to do is click this button, which will open this breaker, which will cancel all the feed going down to the solar controller. Now down here underneath, I wanted to make sure I had good, easy access to this system anytime that I had to work on it. So what I ended up doing is on this little kicker panel here, I ended up installing Velcro strips down both sides. So as I'm driving, if I need to get access, I can just grab this panel, I can just pull this out of the way. So it's really easy for me to get everything here that I need on the controller. So now how everything finalized down here on the controller, obviously we have the solar controller here. I got the inline fuse coming off of the positive lines. Coming off of that, what I did is I added this little external fuse block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all the essential things that I want running on the solar. It's going to be off of that fuse block. And then we have the 1500 watt inverter. And then let me get back here and show you kind of how I integrated this into all the different systems here. So as we scoot back here behind, so while we're driving, I have two different switches that I've installed down here. So first off, I just have this light switch. So now this light switch right here is actually what feeds that external fuse box down there. So as we're driving, if we need to run the freshwater pump, run the fans, or run the lights, which is all the things I want to be able to run off solar, you simply just have to come in here, flip up that switch, and that powers everything on the solar. So we're not draining anything, so it focuses on charging the batteries. If we don't need to run any of those systems, we just flip that switch off, and it just focuses on charging the batteries. Now this outlet is coming directly from the 1500 watt inverter. Same thing, as we're going anywhere, if we want to use it, we just drop this panel, reach underneath here on the back side of the inverter, there's just a little switch to turn it on. So I hardwired this outlet directly coming from that inverter. Now I got one that had little blue LED lights to indicate when it is running. So this has two outlets and two USB ports. So same thing, as we were driving, like my kids wanted to charge some things, I said, well, let's go ahead and use the solar while we're driving. They just drop the panel, flip the switch, they could charge their phones. My daughter was charging some stuff here. I charged my GoPro batteries while I was driving. So it kind of makes everything nice and neat, all kind of tied in right here next to the main power supply. So this is the main power supply that's already wired in for the whole van. So everything's real nice and neat and kind of right next to each other. So let's head back over here, show you some of the other things that I've done, I've added into it, and kind of final things up. Okay, so a couple things I really considered when I was building this system is we live in the Pacific Northwest, so we don't get as much sunshine during the non-sunny seasons as everybody else does. So during the winter time, when we do a lot of clamming, a lot of fishing, a lot of crabbing, there's not going to be as much sunshine. So we really wanted to be able to switch this back from solar, if the system is just getting drained or we don't have enough, to be able to put everything back to run off shore power or run on a generator. So what I did inside here, so this is our freshwater pump, so I'll just kind of show as an example of how I wired this system. I wanted to have ease of access, so just like the front kicker here, I installed Velcro to everything that I'm going to be wiring to it, so I have really easy access to the wire. I just give it a pull. So here's our freshwater pump. So what I did is I wired this freshwater pump into this external fuse, which then does power off of the light switch. But see, we've drained the system, and now I can't get it to run, and I need to use it. What I've done here, hopefully you can see on the video, is I left the pigtail on this for the normal power supply. So if all of a sudden I run out of solar and I do need to still run my freshwater pump, all I have to do is pull this plug, put this one back in its place, and now I'm wired right back into the normal power supply. So then I'd have to go to the external fuse box right here, and I would pull the 15 amp fuse, place that fuse back in the normal power supply, and now the freshwater pump is going to be lined back up to normal shore power or generator. Now I'm going to be planning on doing that with the lights and with the fan. So that way I have two different ways I can run everything, and it's really easy access. Essentially just plug and play to swap everything over. Alright, so that wraps up the solar system here on our van. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful. You know, a couple of things to consider when you are trying to build your own system. What kind of camping do you plan on doing, and what are the basic essentials you're really planning on doing with your solar system? I wanted all my systems to be separate, so that way I can isolate my solar system, or I can run off the main power off of the van, depending on what my camping situation. If I'm boondocking somewhere remote, I want to be able to run a fan, some lights, and run my fresh water pump. And those are really my only main concern. Everything else I can kind of rough it. So build your system according to whatever you're really going to be using your vehicle for. That's how you want to build your system. I also suggest that, you know, plan for ease of access. Plan for the worst, but hope for the best. If you are somewhere remote, make it so you have easy access to get to everything that you need. Kind of like my isolation breakers or different things like that, or keeping the pigtails on your wiring. So worst case scenario, you can always put a system back to how it was before, or you can just continue on or help diagnose things as things fail. Well, again, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comment section. If you really like this video, hit that like. If you really want to see all of our other adventures, hit that subscribe button. You know, we already have taken the van out for a maiden voyage, so I'll put a link to our first trip here somewhere in the view here. There'll be a link, so feel free to click that link and follow along and join us with all of our other adventures. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you around.